Hey, how's it going?
Hey Alex, how's it going? Not too bad on my end.
I'm down a camera, but we're doing good overall. I'd rather be down a camera than like me have some kind of a heat issue and I have to shut down because that's not gonna work too well otherwise. But
Gotcha,
yeah.
gotcha.
Yeah, I am just thrilled to have you here. Thank you so much. I've been a big fan of your blog and your work for a while. It's been my fault not having you on the stream yet, but I'm so thrilled that you would join us for the holiday special. You do some phenomenal stuff, and I'm really excited to learn how you did what you're going to show us today. Because you said like, "What if I teach you this?" And I'm like, I would like to learn how you did that. So yeah, absolutely. So yeah, do you want to jump
Nice.
into it?
Yeah, let me just
Awesome.
pull up my screen.
Yeah, you can do the little thing. Whoa, almost knocked the water over. That would have been fun.
All right.
It's going to get
Can you see my
sloppier
screen now?
as we go. Yep. Let me swap over, and there we go. All right, chat. Check these out.
All right. So this is what I'm going to be talking about today. It's these weird, I don't know how to describe them, just like gradient things that animate into each other. So
Yeah.
I do a lot of generative art, and usually I would use like SVG or Canvas for that. But this was my first time using machine learning, which unlike like other stuff that you can just run in the browser and show to people live, this stuff takes a while. So
Got it.
it's going to be a lot of videos, but it's also something really cool that I learned this year. So happy to share that.
Awesome.
Um, so what I'm using here is this thing called Stylegan, which is like a popular machine learning tool. You've probably heard of it. Like you've seen this thing called like this person does not exist, where
Yeah.
it creates fake people or images of fake people. And one of the cool things about Stylegan is you can actually train that model on other types of images, and then it starts creating those types of images. So, for example, if you trained it on paintings by a specific painter, it will start creating new paintings that are similar in style to what that painter
That's
might have
really
done
cool.
previously. So that's what I used here. Um, and what I trained it on was mesh gradients because I have this kind of weird obsession with mesh gradients. They're they've been everywhere in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
They're super cool, and normally it takes a lot of skill to create these. Like you have to like go into Illustrator or something and actually like manipulate a lot of stuff to create good looking mesh gradients. Um, and I wanted to create them in a generative way, but I just like had no idea how to do it. It just seems really hard. So once I got introduced to Stylegan, I was like, okay, why don't I just train Stylegan with a bunch of mesh gradients? So I found something like 1,000 images of mesh gradients, just like scraping Pinterest or Instagram or whatever I could find, and then that's what I used to train the actual model. Um, so this was my first time doing it. I didn't really know how to approach it. So how this whole thing started was a few months ago. I took a course from Derek Schultz, who does a lot of amazing content for designers and creative coders who want to learn machine learning. And one of his courses was just like teaching folks how to use StyleGAN, and that's kind of
Got
where I
it.
started. And what he's done is created these Collab notebooks. So normally like you would want to run this stuff on your computer, and it doesn't work because it requires a lot of processing power. Um, so Google Colab is a tool that just gives you a computer in the cloud where you can run this stuff on, and these are usually fairly powerful computers that you can use to do machine learning stuff. Uh, so you can like go to Derek's GitHub, grab one of these notebooks, and just like open it up in Colab, and
Oh
he's
wow.
done like a really good job of just like giving you step by step what you need to do. So like step one, train the model, step two, generate images with the model, and so on. So that's kind of the process that I followed. Or there's also a tool called Runway ML, which is an alternative, which also allows you to run machine learning stuff by like hooking up to a cloud-based computer. So that's kind of where I started. I trained this model on those mesh gradient images that I showed you, and then start off just by like trading images, and like it did like create interesting images and got to generate mesh gradients, and that was kind of cool. And one of the things that this thing lets you do is create feature vectors. So kind of like what Chris was showing with the knobs thing. Imagine that, but for generating these mesh gradient images. So you get something like 512 vectors, and you can sort of scale them between 0 and 1. So just like imagine like a massive mixing board where you're just like manipulating stuff. So here I have like an example of just like a few vectors that I was just manipulating, and you can see like gradually it's kind of like starting off at the same place, but then creating slight variations of the image. It's hard to sort of like tie it back to like, this is exactly what this vector is doing, but you can sort of get a sense that by changing those constraints, you can generate different kinds of images. And yeah, that was like super cool. I know with when you like create images of people, like you can find vectors that will like make someone smile or frown and things like that. It's
that
yeah,
see, like
it's
this
kind of wild.
is beautiful. That part creeps me out a little bit, right? It's like that uncanny valley of like, oh, that's but this is so cool. I'm so on board with
Oh,
this. This will never creep me out.
I've got a interesting uncanny valley thing coming up for you.
Oh, okay, great.
All right, cool. So this is kind of like where I started, and was like pretty happy with this. But and
Cool.
then I started learning a few more techniques that you can do with Stylegan, and one of them is just like interpolation. So you can create different gradients and then get the thing to just animate between the two, and that already like created some really interesting images for me, and played around a bunch with that. So that was one, and the other technique that I learned was something called projection. So we're gonna hit some uncanny valley stuff here. So this is an example that Derek shared with us. It's done by another artist, and what's happening here is with projection you can give the model an image. So normally you would just get the model to create new images, but with projection you can give the model an image and tell it to find that in its model space. So in this case, this is just using like Stylegan, but we're giving it an image of Mario, and we're going to see if Stylegan can find that image of Mario in the model. And it does like weird, creepy stuff, but at the end, it kind of is able to recreate that image through its model, which is kind of wild. But yeah, it works.
Oh my goodness. That was wow. That was
Yeah.
definitely some uncanny valley. Yeah. At the end though, weird. How does wow?
Yeah,
So
I
it
no
finds
idea how
it.
that works.
I don't fully understand how it finds it, so to speak.
So the model is kind of like this like abstract thing where it learns to do something and then is able to create images of that type. But if you give it an image that is sort of similar to that type, it will try to recreate that. And
Got
the
it.
important part is like at the end of that, you get a thing called an NPZ file. So you can use that to generate that type of image with that model. And that's a crucial part. That's like a thing that came super handy. So I'll move on from this nightmare fuel
Yeah.
to
Wow. That's gonna haunt
what
me
I
for a
used it for.
while. Gradients, nice. I
Uh,
like this.
so what I started doing was using found images, and I would like throw that into the model and see like can the model actually find this. And during that process, it's sort of like a step-by-step process where it starts with something completely random and then gets as close as possible to the image that you provided. And as you get close to it, it generates these like videos that have like a really nice living painting effect to it for me,
Yeah.
which I was like, this is really cool. I wonder if I can do something with this. So I did like a whole bunch of experiments with it, just like went and found a bunch of images and would throw them into the model and see how closely can you generate this. And what I found was that it works really, really well for 2D compositions where there are sort of like large blocks of colors, or even like 3D geometry. So like you go find like a cool 3D model, throw it in, and then it's going to try to recreate that, but then adds like this really interesting effect to it where it feels like it's a painting, and it's like has this like slightly animated vibe to it, which was like, okay, this is starting to do something interesting. Let's see how I
It's
can build on
beautiful.
this.
It really is.
So obviously the next step for me was fire up Figma. Let's start creating some random compositions and throwing it into this and see where it takes me. And yeah, like I said, I tried out with a lot of stuff. So like there's this thing on the left where I had like a bunch of small circles. So stuff like that was super high detail, that would just like get completely destroyed by the model because it cannot generate like high detail. It's all about sort of
Okay.
like large blocks of color. So stuff like that did not work. But anything with like high contrast and like big chunks of color, that all worked really, really well. So I fed that into the model and generated a few images. So this is like some of the examples of stuff that I created, where it's just it's that projection sequence, and all I'm doing is that video might be like a 2-minute long video where it's frame by frame. It's trying, each frame is like a new iteration of it trying to get close to the final piece, and then like right as you get close to the end, just clip out like a 30-second clip, and it just almost feels like it's looping and it's the same shape that's sort of running over and over again. And that's kind of how I started it, and that's where I landed. And this was a really cool effect already. And then I decided to combine the two techniques together. So I talked about how when you do the projection thing, it gives you that NPZ file. So what you can do is you can create a bunch of these compositions, project them into the model space, get an NPZ file for all of them, and then just interpolate between them. And that's what you're seeing here. So it's like different compositions projected, and then it's just simply animating between them.
Wow.
And that's kind of the final effect of what you're seeing everywhere. And yeah, that's kind of how I landed here. It was like a random, just like knocking about, trying out different things, but pretty happy with where this landed.
Yeah. Wow. That Chad is absolutely loving it. Yeah, seriously, this is just beautiful, and I love the way that you like iterated, you experimented, and kind of you. I'm glad you saw Mario and said I'm going in the other direction. So yeah, but like I love the colors, I love the compositions that you've done, and then bringing the machine learning into it. These are fantastic. I want these hanging in a museum just on loop. I genuinely love them.
Thanks. Yeah, it's kind of like a weird place because with like generative art, you're usually just creating everything from scratch. But with this, you're training it on stuff that other people have created, and then this then feeding some of your own work onto it. So it's like a weird like ownership space, and that tends to be the weird ownership space, like who is the creator.
Yeah,
But
it's
yeah,
like
definitely
collaboration
has the
without.
possibility to make
Yeah,
interesting stuff.
sorry, there was a delay. I didn't mean to talk over you there. Um, yeah,
Oh, no worries, no worries.
it's like an interesting bit of collaboration without them knowing, in a sense, right? Like you're not stealing their work, but it's like they've helped to create this work. But I feel like that's art in general, right? Like you're still borrowing ideas and things like that. It's just this is kind of borrowing through a machine in a sense. Really neat.
Yeah, totally.
Wow. Let's settle this forever. They are all mine. This looks fantastic. Wait, what's Miodai saying? We've got David in the chat. I know that you and David, or at least I'm pretty sure that you and David have talked in the Discord. And Chris Kirk Nielsen,
Yes.
another phenomenal artist, says this looks fantastic. Yeah, totally agree. Wattenberger, these are so pretty. Yeah, these are just fantastic. I think people are talking about the blockchain. They want these as NFTs. But yeah, platonic love affair going. David says.
There are a few of these available as NFTs. You can find me on object.com or whatever it's called. That yeah, there's a few there.
That's so cool. And are these up on your website? It's varun.ca.
Yeah, varun.ca/work. There's a few of these examples up there.
All right, I want to get that.
And also, like, if anyone's interested in like getting into this stuff, highly recommend Derek's website and courses, and even like a lot of his stuff is just on GitHub. So if you just want to like go grab one of the notebooks and just like hit run and get going with it, it's fairly self-explanatory. Like kind of like gives you step by step what you have to do.
Gotcha. Awesome. What would his site be?
Oh, let me
know it offhand. Oh yeah, you had it back there.
Artificialimages.com. Yeah.
Cool. I'll drop that in chat. Adam says just gorgeous. Yeah, I am a huge fan of just all your work is beautiful. But this might be my favorite. Honestly, thank you for coming on and teaching us how you did it, because it seems like magic, and it's so cool that it's machine learning. It just feels like it's opening possibilities in my brain for what we can do with it, because I feel like when I think of machine learning, I think of the things that you've mentioned of like, yeah, we know it for faces and for other things, but I haven't seen it used much in art myself. So it's awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, was there anything else you wanted to touch on?
No, that was everything. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, thank you so much for coming. Really appreciate it. Yeah, and we have to have you on in January or February sometime, because I would love to chat with you about lots of other stuff. Please check out his blog, because it is full of just a bunch of great articles, including this work. You write some great articles. I think that your blog is up there with like Amelia's in terms of like just the quality of it. So big fan, buddy.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on. All right. Yeah,
right.
let's say goodbye. Take care.